TJ, do you believe that obvious bullshit like tarot readings and religious-backed con schemes should be legally treated the same as scamming? Well, here's the problem with that. All of religion is a scam. Let's just fucking first get that out of the way. Because it assuages man's deepest fear. Oh, death, the unknown. Which I personally believe that once the neurons up here stop firing, there is no more you. You're gone. That's it. There is no more person to perceive experience. Therefore, there is no more experience. At least not for the particular configuration of matter and energy that is you, or me, or any of us. I think that once we die, we stop having perception, we stop having experience. It's just over. But religion has an explanation. They basically say, well, no, that's not true. What happens is, if you obey us and follow our edicts and usually give us money, then you will go to a magical paradise in the sky after you're dead. And if you don't listen to us and you do the opposite of what we want you to do, you'll go to another parallel kingdom of suffering and pain and torture without any happiness, without any respite, nothing. You'll just be a fucking suffer pig till the end of time, whatever. Obviously a scam. Biggest and the best scam ever, because you could literally never disprove it completely. No matter what you do, people can still be like, well, you make a good point, but I've got faith. So it doesn't really matter what you say. You can't really refute it. It's just, they're just going to believe it no matter how little evidence there is for it, no matter how much evidence there is against it. They just believe it because they have this thing called faith, and they think it's a good thing to have, but it's really not, because it's what perpetuates the scam that is being run on them. But you can't treat something like treat like a Ponzi scheme or a mail fraud or any of that stuff the same way you treat religious scams, because when you're addressing religious scams or things like tarot readings or things like that, you're fucking with beliefs that people hold, which they have no basis in fact, but it's still what those people believe. So it's not like they're... the scam is impossible to disprove, basically. Like, you can never prove 100% that tarot cards cannot see the future in some way, or that they cannot predict what's going to happen in a person's life. It's impossible to 100% disprove that. So, the people who go to these things, they have access to the information that you do and I do to know that this stuff is bullshit, that it's flim-flam, but they still go and they do it. I think the solution is educating those people so that they can't be scammed anymore. It's not trying to stop the scams from being run, because all that does is it makes people feel persecuted, it makes people feel like their beliefs are being persecuted, and it's probably just going to strengthen their convictions, if anything. And such practices will just go underground and probably become more expensive and bigger scams. Do you have any theories as to why society portrays things like sexism and rape as female-only problems? You've answered on your channel that they do occur with men, but not why other people ignore this. Why do people ignore sexism against men? I think it's because there's still the idea out there that men are supposed to be inherently strong just because they're men. And women are supposed to be inherently weak just because they're women. And this is one of the things that feminists attribute to the patriarchy, which is the old male-led way of life that existed prior to this more modern era. And still exist in many parts of the world. I don't attribute it to that. I think it's really more of like a vestigial feature left over from that era. That doesn't mean that the patriarchy is still in full swing. It's just like, some human beings will be born with a tail, or we still have a little bit of a tail inside of us because, it's a vestigial feature. It's left over from when we did have tails. When we were tree dwellers that needed tails to grab branches and to balance ourselves and so on and so forth. And we still have a little bit of them left. And that's the same thing that's going on with these remnants of the patriarchy that are left over in our society. And yeah, I mean, we should get rid of them. We should try our best to make it clear that, just because you're a man, that doesn't mean that you're strong. It doesn't mean that you're weak either. It doesn't mean that just because you're a woman doesn't mean you have to be strong or weak. People are weak in certain areas and they're strong in certain areas, and it varies from individual to individual. It's not based on sex at all. All right, so we just need to combat that notion. Once again, education is the solution to the problem, but the real problem is that how do we educate people? Basically, how do you educate people, especially people who actively resist education? I think you just have to pick away at these ideas over generations. I don't think that the change can come quickly. I think it basically has to be incremental. And unfortunately, that might not be fast enough in the future when it comes to certain of our problems. Will you explain to everyone in detail why Obamacare is a good thing for America? I've never said Obamacare is a good thing for America. I just think it's better than what we had before. I think that Obamacare basically took our healthcare system here in the United States from an D- to a D+. That's what I'll say. If we'd kept the public option, then I'd say solid B-. But we didn't. We got rid of the public option, and we kept the insurance mandate. So now people are forced to deal with these private corporations, but the alternative before that was you either had to deal with these private corporations for your insurance or you didn't have insurance at all. And if you got sick, you're just SOL. That stands for shit out of luck, kids, just in case you don't know. And it's obviously bad to not have any healthcare coverage whatsoever. And now the insurance companies have certain regulations that are being imposed on them. It stops them from rejecting people just for pre-existing conditions. It stops them from, denying healthcare coverage to anyone who needs it, basically. Unfortunately, a lot of times the fines are not sufficient enough to really incentivize these companies to do these things, but it's still better than before when the insurance companies could basically just do whatever the fuck they wanted, and no one had any sort of legal recourse. What are your views on sadism? Well, as a masochist, I kind of need sadists, don't I? So, I think it's a good thing. I mean, there's a certain amount of conflict, I guess, because, if you think about people hurting each other and delighting in the pain of others, it seems like, oh, well, that's an innately evil characteristic, but that's not true. Because there are, most sadists that are raised in this culture have empathy, have compassion. They develop these things as part of just existing in a world where we're not as comfortable with extreme brutality as we once were. And when we do, indulge in it, it's in a very fantasy setting, like in a video game or something. So most sadists out there are not looking to just hurt people for their delight and amusement. They're, looking for masochists for the most part. They're looking for people who want to be hurt. And that's not harmful because these are two groups of people. You might say, well, whatever, these people are fucked up. That's really not your place, in my opinion. But you could say that if you want to. But, they're better off, utilizing each other than they are going out there into the world and trying to find other outlets for their feelings. So I would say a sadist and a masochist together is a lot more stable than some sadist out there trying to find someone to be sadistic towards because there are no masochists or there's no easy route to masochists. And the same thing goes for some masochists out there trying to figure out ways to harm themselves. If you had a hottest girl and the hottest guy in front of you, which one would you fuck? Well, first of all, they're not even going to want to have anything to do with me. They're probably just going to go off somewhere and fuck each other and be like, let's ditch this fat bozo and get a fucking hotel room. At the best, I'm probably just going to be the cameraman. That's like best case scenario. Like, let's get this fucking fat fuck to film us. We'll make money on the porno since both of us are extremely attractive. But But I mean, like, assuming that they had no will of their own and were just like, hey, want to have sex with us? Then I'd probably just be like, we'd probably do like a sandwich situation. I'd be in the middle. I'll let your imagination do the rest. Do you think everyone has a purpose on this planet, or are some of us just born by mistake? Well, that's a bit of a false dichotomy, if you ask me, because I mean everything. It's not. You know, first of all, the word mistake is kind of not the word I'd use, because I mean it's just a random event that happened. And a lot of random events happen in the universe. They're seemingly random to our perception. They happen because of, you know, causal chains of events and stuff. Or there might be some truly random events, we don't know. But I mean, these random events, a lot of them they happen. They don't amount to anything. But some of them can, you know, whether you could call it accidentally, you could call it just the law of averages. But they contribute to the structure of the universe. And we're part of that structure, and so is everything we see around us. And it's not a matter of are we the results of random accidents, or are we, you know, these beings of meaning? It's that we're both. You know, this structure that has emerged. We are the arbiters of values, because human beings, so far as we know, are the only things that assign values to things. The universe doesn't have any sort of sense of the worth of a star or a planet or a galaxy. Not that we know of, anyway. Maybe the universe does have some capacity to value those things that we haven't yet discovered. But as far as we know, we're the only ones. There's probably other aliens out there somewhere that also have value systems. But as far as we know, we're the only ones that have value systems. We're the only ones that are able to assign meaning to things. The universe doesn't care. We do. And once you realize that meaning is restricted to human beings, you see that life is very meaningful. Because it's very meaningful to us. And we're the only ones who have this invention called meaning. And you could say, well, if it only exists within us, then it's false. It's not a real thing. Well, if by that definition, everything is false. Because the world you look out upon is not the world. You're not really seeing the world. You know, there's photons and shit bouncing in your eyes, and your brain is putting together a picture based on those photons. Really, the world you're seeing is happening within you. So, everything is happening up here. The world around you is in your brain. It's based upon data created by your sensory organs and shit, but it's still just a fucking construct in your brain. And you don't see reality as it truly is. You see it as you know, like you look at a blade of grass or something, you see this nice solid thing. You don't see that it's made of cells, and the cells are made of atoms, and the atoms are made of subatomic particles, and it's all just bouncing around and phasing out of existence and jumping every fucking which way like a fucking psychokinetic thingamajig. You don't see any of that. All you see is the fucking unassuming little blade of grass blowing around in the fucking wind. So the reality that you perceive is an illusion created by your mind. And, you know, if you want to make that a depressing fact, you can. But I think you could take it the other way and say, well, that means that the feelings that I feel, the thoughts that I think, are every bit as real to me as anything else in this world. And if I feel the meaning of something, and I go to someone else and I talk to them about it, and they feel the meaning of something, then that thing is in some sense real, because we share this meaning. It's a very interesting kind of thing, but there's a lot of different ways you could go with that fucking line of thought. Since the time I was truly aware of my opinions on various things, I've always agreed with the idea of homosexual couples adopting children, but my buddy told me once that it's unnatural. Of course, I answer him that it's easy to find homosexual relationships in nature, but what he meant was that raising children by gay couples is unnatural because in nature, the process requires a masculine and feminine element. Do you have an idea how to refute that? Thanks, TJ. Well, First of all, in nature, there's all kinds of crazy fucking couplings. And it's not always couplings. I mean, sometimes there's big, giant groups of things, like a lion pride, or, you know, like there's a species like horsefish where the men fucking are the ones that are pregnant, basically, because the eggs are fertilized and then carried in the male. There's all kinds of little strange twists on that concept. But when it comes to two parents of the same gender raising kids, I can think of at least one animal that definitely has done that successfully. Human fucking beings. We are a part of nature. We are not separate from nature. We emerged through the same process of evolution by natural selection and a few other factors that every other fucking species on the goddamn planet emerged from. And now we want to say, oh, well, we're beyond that. Why? Because we fucking have built structures? Termites build structures too, so do beavers. Plenty of animals build structures. Ours are more complex. We have consciousness. Okay, fine. So there's things that set us apart, but that doesn't mean that we are truly apart, that we have, you know, somehow crossed the magical line that may go, once we cross this line, we are no longer part of nature. Yay! Now we are a separate thing, and we can look at nature as though it's distinctly different from us. I'm sorry, but everything that you see around you, everything that exists in this universe is part of nature. That includes human beings who, you know, by the way, they do get together. Gay people, woman, man, they fucking raise children together. It happens, and the children are no worse for the wear. Do you think that women will eventually be equal to men? I personally do not think so, because what each other person can, but rather because women have different needs and behave different in comparison to men. Well, first of all, what are the behavior differences between men and women? I mean, I know that there are some, and it's clear that there are differences between the sexes, but it's really not clear what they are, is it? I mean, it's kind of puzzling. Every time you think you've got one pegged, you can find a million exceptions to it. So, I don't know that these distinctions are as well defined as you might believe them to be. Another thing is, what does equality mean between two genders? What does it mean between any two groups of people? I mean, I've never even met two people who were exactly equal. I mean, because to be exactly equal, you'd have to be exactly identical. And no two people are exactly identical, not even identical twins, because they have different experiences. So, I don't know that it really even makes sense as a question in particular. The real question is, should women have equal rights under the law? The answer is yes. And currently, for the most part, they do, with a few, you know, little tiny exceptions that are holdover from a more primitive and stupid time that we should get rid of. Why is Holly never talked about in your videos? What does she think of your YouTube career? I really don't talk about my personal life in my videos very much at all, in general. What does Holly think about my YouTube career? I mean, I don't know. I think she likes it because it's, you know, how we put a roof over our heads and all that stuff. So, I mean, I'd imagine she's pretty fond of it. Why do you never attend YouTube events like VidCon despite having almost 500,000 subscribers? I'm not really much for the whole people thing, especially going to a place where everyone knows me, or at least a lot of people would know me and want to talk to me or engage with me. It would just be very stressful to me because I'm not much into human interaction, and when I am, I like to interact one-on-one with people or in very small groups. I'm not much of a large crowd kind of person. When I do go into large crowds, it's usually only for events that I really, really want to go to, and even then it's like a challenge to be around that many people for that length of time. So I would say that, you know, it's probably just my social anxiety that keeps me from going to things like VidCon. If I remember correctly, you're against laws that want to make piracy illegal. What I'm wondering is, how do you feel about the stuff you're trying to sell being pirated? For example, someone uploading the documentary you made with Cody, or someone scanning all the pages from your book and sharing them online. Also, I'm not trying to be a smartass and be all like, you support piracy, aha, but how do you feel when your shit is pirated? Bet you don't like that. I just want to know your opinion. I understand that things that I do are going to be pirated online. It's a fact of the new age of media that people are going to share this stuff. And I think that ultimately people sharing this stuff is a good thing, because if someone sees that something of mine is available, someone might read that book. It might make them a bigger fan. They might say, wow, this guy really had some interesting things to say. And even though they didn't pay for my book, maybe they come and watch my videos a little bit more often. And now I recoup the money that way. Or it generates more interest. Not everyone can afford the book. Not everyone can afford the fucking price for the documentary or whatever. So, it's fine. I mean, I think that ultimately it all kind of evens out. And even if it doesn't, trying to stop people from getting the things they want. I mean, I pirate shit. Most people I know pirate shit. And the people who try to stop you from doing that just come across like assholes. So why would I want to come across like an asshole like those people? What's an acceptable occasion for a man to cry? Anytime he feels the need to cry is an acceptable occasion for him to cry. And, most men, I think, that want to cry are not going to be particularly concerned about who thinks it's acceptable around them. There are men who are very emotional, like to cry a lot. There are men who fucking don't like to cry at all. And there are people in between. And it's up to each individual person to decide what level of emotion they want to show publicly or to their friends or whatever. Is there a popular conspiracy theory that you believe to be true? If so, why? I think Michael Hastings' death is legitimately suspicious. The journalist who crashed his car on a fucking straight road, and they found marijuana in his system. Well, marijuana doesn't make you fucking swerve off the road randomly and crash into shit. So I think there's a good chance he was murdered. Do you think that people having functioning open relationships have a screw loose? They are totally pushing the natural emotion of jealousy out of the way. I don't think that jealousy afflicts all people to the same degree, just as emotions like anger or sadness might not afflict all people to the same degree. I don't particularly feel jealousy that much, and when I do, it's very faint. It's kind of like a subtle irritation rather than a major force inside of me. So I don't really think that that's necessarily true, that this is like we're pushing aside some natural human emotion, like, oh my god, I have to push aside my natural human emotions in order to indulge in this crazy lifestyle. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's just a matter of being comfortable with your partner and having genuine trust for them and their honesty and their judgment. Can you please determine step 2 in the Underwear Gnomes business plan from South Park? Well, let's see. Steal underpants, and then step 2 was and step 3 was profit. So step 2 is probably that they invest heavily in underwear companies, because once they've stolen all the underwear, people are going to have to buy new underwear. And, that's probably going to see some profits go up for Hanes and similar companies. So the Underpants Gnomes have already invested heavily in those companies, and then they see their fucking, cha-ching, right? That's got to be the answer. When did you know you were into BDSM? Pretty much the second I saw it, it wasn't like I saw it and I was like, oh, this is curious. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole. It was like I saw it and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's for me. You always seem to answer very honestly in Q&As, even though the questions tend to get extremely personal. I wonder if you are that honest in face-to-face conversation, either with someone you know or with a complete stranger, like we are about topics and that personal. Oh, topics that personal. Thanks, TJ. Yeah, sure. I'm pretty fucking forthright with people that want to talk to me. I mean, I can be a little bit guarded at first, but once the guard is down, I'm pretty much, I'll pretty much answer any question that's asked of me, as long as it's not gonna like be something that delves too deeply into my personal life. But, you know, I mean, for the most part, I kind of believe in trying to live with as few boundaries as possible when it comes to that sort of thing, because I like my mind to feel free and unencumbered. I think that's how I function the best emotionally, is when I can feel free to express myself to other people, and to have other people know me for who I truly am, and not some facade, or, you know, like a lot of people, I feel like they put on this very smiley persona, like, hi, I'm Ted Stevens and I'm your friend. Like, I don't fucking do that. I just can't bring myself to conduct my affairs with that level of contrivance and dishonesty and falsehood. TJ, I recently began a new level of football at my high school. I'm pretty good, and I was starting linebacker until one day prior to the game, the coach called the team to prayer. Being an atheist, I felt uncomfortable participating, so I stayed at my locker. When my coach saw me, he asked in front of the team why I wasn't joining them, and I simply said I don't want to. Wasn't enough for him, so I admitted my atheism to the whole team and the coaching staff. I haven't played in a game since. What are your thoughts? My thoughts are, contact the ACLU, because you've got a fucking lawsuit on your hands and you will definitely win. Are you proud of your own behavior to this date? Step aside about what you feel you should be proud, and talk about what you feel proud of, what makes you smile when you remember it, and what events you are comfortable, you are comfort in talking about. I don't really believe in the idea of taking some pride in something that I've done, like, I accomplished this amazing thing, aren't I great? I feel like if I truly accomplish something great, other people will, you know, take notice, and they'll be the ones to shower praise and adulation on me. I don't think it's my job to shower praise and adulation upon myself, nor do I feel like it's my place to scorn myself or to second guess my own decisions. It's the place of others to judge me. When it comes to myself, I have my own feelings about myself that I keep to myself for the most part. I mean, I struggle with depression sometimes. It was a lot more intense when I was younger, but I mean, it's still very much a part of my life. It makes it difficult sometimes to get motivated. You know, makes it extremely difficult to emotionally invest in situations. You know, and there's a certain there's like a fucking switch in my head between timidity and ferocity, and it seems like there's no real middle ground with me a lot of the times. Like, I'm either just totally whatever, or I'm fucking gung-ho to do something, and it just oscillates, you know, very randomly. I guess that I have a lot of ego too, though. It's like part of me tears myself down, part of me builds myself up, but it really has very little relation to things I've done in this world. It's really more about my internal sense of self and who I am, and that informs everything I do. And then other people can judge my actions and bring that back to me, and then that might have some effect on how I feel inside. But I don't really feel like it's my place to judge my own actions, because I'm too biased, I'm too close to them to possibly know, you know, have I done the right thing, have I done the wrong thing, am I being the good guy, am I being the bad guy, am I being some, you know, something in between, am I being something far more nuanced than that? It just doesn't really make sense for me to get hooked up on all that. That's really for other people to determine. And I guess that's all the questions we have for today. I'm happy I was able to answer them for you. I'm just happy I was able to drink a little more little soda. It's actually sparkling seltzer water, but I added a Mio to it, so it's pretty close to a soda. So I think the TJ Drinks Soda channel should be happy with whatever, you know. Yeah, so that's good. So he's got some more content. And that's pretty much all. And if you guys want to you know, ask more questions or something, just you go ahead and ask them below. Maybe I'll use one of your questions as the basis for further TJ Does Life videos. Not doing another Q&A anytime in the near future, but I might answer an odd question here or there, so feel free to just ask anything at any time, and maybe it'll be addressed. I mean, I have a lot of people writing to me, so it's obvious that I can't address every single thing that comes up, but I try to do a pretty good job of it anyway. And that's pretty much it. Fuck off.